Spider-Man turned 60 in 2022. Despite such an impressive age, he still ranks third in popularity among all superheroes. But few people know that initially the concept of the character was considered insane and hopeless, and that there was a possibility that he could not be a male. Today on About Movies channel, we will tell the full story of Spider-Man, about the inception of the first issue of the comic to the trilogy with Tom Holland. Let's figure out why his creators stopped talking to each other, and see how the Peter Parker films have evolved from this to that. If you want to know everything about cinema, click on the bell and subscribe button. Then you will be the first to know about new videos. Subscribe and we start. Spider-Man was created by Stan Lee and artist Steve Ditko in 1962 and became the first full-fledged superhero teenager. Prior to that, his peers were content with the role of assistants to older and more powerful superheroes. Lee came up with the idea for such a hero when he noticed that Marvel Comics were popular mainly among teenagers. The writer decided that it would be nice to come up with a character of the appropriate age. As for spiders, as a child, Stan Lee was a fan of the heroic adventurer from the tabloid magazine nicknamed Spider. This gave him the idea to present a young character with spider powers. When Lee presented the idea to Marvel Comics founder Martin Goodman, he was skeptical. Firstly, because of the stereotype that no one is interested in a teenage hero, and secondly, because of the dislike of most people towards spiders. And yet, Stan Lee persuaded him to try. First, he asked for help from Jack Kirby, one of those artists who significantly influenced the development of the comic industry. He came up with a plot where a guy found a ring in a web that gave superpowers. This concept did not suit the screenwriter at all, and then he turned to Steve Ditko, an equally cool artist who later also gave Marvel Doctor Strange. The sketches satisfied the screenwriter, so work began. Although teenage superheroes were usually given names ending in boy at the time, Lee named the hero Spider-Man because he wanted the character to age as the series progressed, and he also believed that the name Spider-Boy sounds humiliating.
You're the Spiderling, crime-fighting spider. You're Spider-Boy?
Spider-Man.
In order not to risk too much, Stan Lee did not immediately create a whole series for Spidey, but placed it in the 15th issue of the Amazing Fantasy Anthology, which was still the final in the series. The comic was released in August of 1962, and the character's success among readers exceeded all expectations of the publisher. The Spider-Man cover number sold even better than many other Marvel titles. Without thinking twice, the publisher allocated a separate series for Spidey, which was called The Amazing Spider-Man. Stan Lee was right when he decided that a teenage superhero would interest readers. Peter Parker was loved for the fact that despite his superpowers, he remained a simple, awkward, and shy guy from a poor family, with problems that were close to readers. When a survey of college students was conducted in 1965, many named Spider-Man their hero, along with musician Bob Dylan and revolutionary Che Guevara. I like Spider-Man because he's become the most famous. He's the one who's most like me. Nothing ever turns out 100% okay. He's got a lot of problems and he does things wrong, and I can relate to that. Unfortunately, the tandem of Ditko and Lee fell apart. After 4 years of work on the Spider-Man comic, Steve decided to leave the publishing house. According to rumors, the creators of Spider-Man, even before Ditko left, were in conflict and for some time even communicated through intermediaries. Ditko stated that the conflict arose primarily due to Lee's creative decisions. Over the years, Peter Parker has been a timid high school student, a troubled college student, a married teacher, the head of a multi-billion-dollar company, and a member of several superhero teams, such as the Avengers, New Avengers, and the Fantastic Four. But most of the time, Peter Parker has been portrayed as a freelance photographer. Such a phenomenon as Spider-Man couldn't bypass television for long. His first appearance was the animated series Spider-Man, released from 1967 to 1970. It was in this series that the most famous song about Spider-Man appeared.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can.
The plot was based on the series The Amazing Spider-Man. The series lasted 3 seasons on air. In 1978, the first live-action television series, The Amazing Spider-Man, was released on CBS, starring Nicholas Hammond as Peter Parker. Despite good ratings, the series was canceled after 13 episodes. One of the reasons was the lack of technical ability to realistically embody comics on the screen. We've already talked about the fact that for a long time, superheroes failed to conquer either television or large screens due to the banal lack of high-quality special effects. If you click on the pop-up card, you can see our video about how the superhero film industry developed and why superheroes became so popular. Follow the link and watch. In the same year, the Japanese version of the television series Spider-Man appeared, which lasted as many as 41 episodes. However, it had practically nothing in common with the origin of Marvel's Peter Parker. In 1981, the second animated series about Spider-Man was released. It told about the adventures of Peter Parker during his student years. Subsequently, the character designs and voices were used in more famous animated series of the same year, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. The next animated series appeared only 13 years later. The new Spider-Man story had a higher budget and used a narrative system. Each episode was just one chapter in a larger story. This version is considered the best Spider-Man animated series ever made. In 1999, the animated series Invincible Spider-Man, developed by Fox, appeared. Their Spider-Man entered the anti-Earth planet created in the early comics of the 1970s. The hero received a nanosuit equipped with cutting-edge technical devices. The series was canceled after the first season due to poor ratings, which were influenced by the rising popularity of Pokémon. In parallel with the release of the animated series, attempts to film the comic did not stop. The production of the film was postponed for 25 years for various reasons. The film rights traveled from producer to producer until Sony Pictures Entertainment acquired a worldwide release license in 1999, buying the film rights for the character from MGM. For the post of director, the studio chose Sam Raimi, who was known for the trilogy Evil Dead. The work was in full swing. The list of contenders for the role of Peter Parker included Freddie Prinze Jr., Heath Ledger, and even Leo DiCaprio. But Sam Raimi did not want to take a handsome man on the role. He didn't want the main character to be the person to whom all the girls would stick to. His main candidate was Tobey Maguire. But the studio was against him for a long time because they did not see him as an action hero. Only when Tobey got serious about fitness and martial arts and then starred in a video where he effectively defeated several stuntmen, the producers gave the go-ahead. Tobey Maguire still remains, for many fans, the most beloved performer of the role of Spider-Man. Who is your favorite? Maguire, Andrew Garfield, or Tom Holland? Share your opinion in the comments. I read everything and like the most interesting ones. It is interesting that, according to Tobey himself, he did not read a single comic book about Spider-Man, but agreed to participate in the project because he really liked the script. Playing a superhero turned out to be not so easy. One problem was that the original costume design did not take into account that the actor would sometimes need to go to the toilet. So, they had to re-equip the suit and add a special hole in it so that Tobey did not have to completely undress in the closet. Many fans were unhappy that in the film, Peter Parker used a mesh liquid, which was a real protein spider silk. Indeed, in the comics, Spidey used a spiderweb artificially created by him with the help of mechanical devices. But the director explained this change by the fact that an ordinary schoolboy, even a very talented one, could hardly create such an amazing glue and even web shooters for him. More realistic, as strange as it may sound for a superhero movie, was the version with a natural web which his body began to produce after being bitten. Stan Lee himself said in an interview that he was not against such a change. The organic webs which Sam Raimi gave him certainly worked beautifully in the movie, and perhaps allowed for better special effects than my idea of limited webbing might have done. Sam Raimi's first film was released on Spider-Man's 40th birthday in 2002. The film hit the Guinness Book of Records as the movie with the highest grossing in one day of release. A year later, another animated series came out, The New Spider-Man, which was based on computer graphics with cel shading technology. The animated series consisted of one season, including 13 episodes, and its plot took place immediately after the first Spider-Man by Sam Raimi. Filming of the second film began even before the script was officially approved. The participation of Tobey Maguire in it was a big question, because the actor at that time was tormented by the injury that he received on the set of the movie Seabiscuit. The studio even seriously considered giving the role to Jake Gyllenhaal, but Maguire was not ready to say goodbye to Spidey, and overcoming the pain remained. Spider-Man 2 was the first Marvel Comics film to win an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. He is considered by many to be the best in the Raimi trilogy. On June 30th, 2004, the film set a new first-day grossing record of $40 million. The third and final Spider-Man film in the Sam Raimi trilogy came out in 2007. Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire insisted that the Sandman would be the main antagonist. However, Sony decided to add Venom to the film, seeing it as a great opportunity for marketing features. The character was written into the script of the film literally 2 weeks before the start of filming. This destroyed Raimi's original concept and subsequently became one of the reasons for failure. Released on May 3, 2007, Spider-Man 3 became a grossing film. In the early days, it even received positive reviews, but soon the ratings began to plummet. Critics felt that the film was too long, included a large number of distracting storylines, oversaturated with melodramatic scenes, and also criticized the acting. The film's failure did not affect the audience's love for Spider-Man. In 2008, the animated series The New Adventures of Spider-Man was released. It is considered by many to be nearly as good as the 1994 animated series. It had great animation, and many of the iconic comic book storylines were adapted in their own way. Sony, meanwhile, was giving up on the idea of making a fourth film with Tobey Maguire. Sam Raimi was very unhappy with Spider-Man 3, so he wanted to finish the fourth film on a high note and make it the best in the series. But he could not finish the script on time, so it was decided to restart. For this, director Mark Webb was invited. He had to look differently at the classic plot of Spider-Man and find new facets in it. The film once again focuses on Peter Parker's high school years as he reveals his abilities. The role went to Andrew Garfield, who impressed the director with his performance on The Social Network. Garfield's Peter was really different from Tobey Maguire's character. There was more drama in the film. His character painfully experienced not only the death of his uncle, but also the loss of his parents. In doing so, Garfield's Spider showed the real wit of Spider-Man from the comics. Unlike Spider-Man Maguire's version, Garfield often joked when he fought crime. Especially for this film, Spider-Man's costume was changed and given the appearance as much as possible similar to the costume in which he first appeared on the pages of the comics. Also, in this movie, Spidey got web shooters from comics again. The film was released in 2012, received quite positive reviews, and performed well at the box office. Stan Lee spoke about Garfield's Spider as follows: "I've met Andrew Garfield and I think he's terrific. Whoever cast him should get a medal. The funny thing is, he and Tobey are totally different and yet both were perfect for Peter Parker. They have that every guy quality." In the same year, the animated series The Great Spider-Man was released. It was completely devoted to training Spider-Man in S.H.I.E.L.D. In the story, Peter Parker had been Spider-Man for over a year. Nick Fury offered Peter the opportunity to practice in S.H.I.E.L.D. to improve his skills. The second part of the film, with Andrew Garfield, was released in 2014. Although Rise of Electro raised a fair amount of money, Sony was not satisfied with the result. In addition, the film received less favorable reviews from the film critics than its predecessor. Even during production, the film was mired in corporate turmoil. Sony endlessly changed their plans for the next films, which is why the plot was rewritten many times. The amount of cut material in this movie is phenomenal of any Spider-Man movie. Webb, like Garfield, wanted to focus on the history of the Parker family, but the director, unlike Sam Raimi, was not given creative freedom, which led to the failure of the sequel. As a result, in February of 2015, Sony and Marvel Studios canceled the third part of Spider-Man with Garfield and announced that the new restart would be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where the character would be played by Tom Holland. The new Spider-Man was supposed to make a cameo appearance for the first time in Captain America: Civil War. In order to finally choose the actor, Marvel arranged separate screen tests for the finalists, together with Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. On auditions with Tom Holland, Downey suddenly decided to move away from the text, which, by the way, is very disliked in Marvel, and began to improvise. Tom was not embarrassed and played the scene perfectly. The producers were able to catch the special chemistry that arose between the actors and realized that Tom was the perfect Spider-Man. A year after the premiere of Captain America: Civil War, a solo movie about Spider-Man with Tom Holland was released. With a budget of $175 million, the film grossed $880 million, guaranteeing the superhero a long life in the MCU. Interestingly, after watching the movie, some fans complained about the high-tech Spider-Man suit, while many ideas for improving the suit were taken from the Spider-Man comics throughout the years. 2017 also saw another reboot of the animated Spider-Man. This time, the plot focused on Peter Parker, who, already being Spider-Man, attended a special high-tech school for brilliant children. In 2019, the second part, Spider-Man: Far From Home, was released, which became the first film about a friendly neighbor where the main location was not New York. As in the previous film, the authors hid many numerical references to certain issues of the Spider-Man comic here. For example, in the scene of the kiss between Peter and MJ on the bridge, you can see an overturned car with the number TASM 143. It was in The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 143 that the first kiss between Peter Parker and Mary Jane took place. Far From Home was the first Spider-Man movie to cross the billion-dollar box office, and the highest-grossing Spider-Man movie ever made, even surpassing Spider-Man 3. In addition to solo projects, Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland, also appeared in Avengers: Infinity War and Avengers: Endgame. Finally, we come to the last Peter Parker film to date, Spider-Man: No Way Home. But it might not have happened. In August of 2019, negotiations between Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios to change the terms of the deal in which the studios were jointly filming Spider-Man films ended with Marvel being suspended from work on the project. While apart after a month and after a negative reaction from fans, both companies nevertheless entered into a new deal, under which Spider-Man remained in the MCU. At the same time, the first rumors began to appear that the Spider-Verse was being prepared, the most powerful crossover of several Peter Parkers from different films, as well as villains that Spider-Man had already encountered on the big screens. The studios have long led a pretty dance, claiming that the rumors are not true, but the premiere of the film will put everything in its place. In the meantime, I suggest you click on this icon and watch a video about the biography of Tom Holland. Click and watch. That's all for today. It was the About Movies channel. We'll be grateful if you like this video. See you very soon. Bye-bye.